Grey's Anatomy usually feels like coming home until it rips your heart out. Today, we're diving into the darkest episodes, the moments that left us breathless, questioning everything, clutching tissues we didn't know we'd need. Stay until the end, because the final story nearly broke the fandom, and what comes before cuts even deeper. And next, it starts with a single gunshot. This was supposed to be a normal day at Seattle Grace. Routine surgeries, patient rounds, maybe a dramatic love triangle or two. But instead, Grey's Anatomy delivered one of its darkest, most unforgettable storylines. It begins like any shift at Grey Sloan. Check-ins, patient rounds, background noise, until one sound changes everything. A grieving widower walked in armed with a gun, desperate to punish the doctors he blamed for his wife's death. His target? Derek Shepherd. But his wrath didn't end there. Reed is shot point blank. Charles bleeds out slowly in Bailey's arms, her strength unraveling in real time. Doctors hide under beds, surgeries are abandoned. The OR becomes a battlefield, and Bailey, usually the rock, is left whispering to a dying colleague in the dark. We'd seen heartbreak before, but this was terror, raw and personal. It rewired what we expected from this show. Because this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a turning point. And if this was the darkest hallway in Grey Sloan, what happens when there's no hallway left? Up next, a crash in the woods, a goodbye in the wreckage, and Lexi, crushed beneath it all. By this point in Grey's, we've seen our surgeons survive shootings, drownings, and disasters inside the hospital walls. But nothing prepared us for what happened when the danger came from the skies. A transplant flight, meant to save lives, crashes deep in the forest. Meredith, Christina, Derek, Arizona, Mark, and Lexi are thrown into chaos, injured, alone, and miles from civilization. And under the broken fuselage, Lexi Grey, pinned and fading fast. She's still lucid when Mark finds her. He grabs her hand, the one he never really let go of. And in that moment, he says everything he never had the courage to. That he loves her. That they were supposed to have a house, babies, a future. And Lexi listens. She smiles, but it's too late. She dies before the rescue, before help arrives, before she can be saved, and the weight of what could have been hits like a second crash. This wasn't just Lexi's end. It was the unraveling of Mark too, because next, the man who held her hand has to let go, and we watch him fade right after her. In the immediate aftermath of the plane crash, not everyone died on impact. And that might have made it worse. Weeks after Lexi's devastating death, Mark Sloan is rushed back to Grey Sloan Memorial. He's alive, but barely. And what follows is one of the most delicate slow burns of grief the show has ever delivered. We watch him fight. At first, there's a flicker of recovery. He jokes, he remembers Lexi, he imagines the life they could have had. For a second, we let ourselves believe he might make it. Because surely Shonda wouldn't rip them both away, right? But when his heart starts to slow, reality sets in. Mark makes peace with it. He gives a final goodbye, calm, present, and surrounded by the people who became his family. When the screen fades to black, it's not just Mark that's gone. It's the energy he brought, the growth he fought for, and the love he never got to keep. This wasn't just McSteamy's exit. It was Grey's telling us no one is safe and grief will find you again. And it does. Next, Meredith faces trauma so raw, her own children can't recognize her. What happens when even the strongest are unrecognizable? At this point in the series, Meredith Grey had already survived the unimaginable. A bomb in an OR, drowning, a plane crash, the loss of her sister, and the death of Derek. But season 12 hit us differently. During what seemed like a routine shift, Meredith is assigned to care for a patient with post-seizure confusion. It's business as usual until it's not. The patient snaps and attacks her in a violent, frenzied outburst. No warning, no build-up, just trauma up close. When we see her again, she's barely conscious. Her face is swollen, her jaw wired shut, her body broken. And maybe worse, her kids are terrified of her. When Zola flinches at her bedside, the heartbreak feels deeper than any injury, surrounded by silence so loud it hurts. And that's what made this episode hit so hard. It wasn't the injury, it was the aftermath. The slow, lonely, voiceless rebuild. We're not watching a surgeon recover. We're watching a mother, a woman, trying to feel safe in her own skin again. But not all heartbreak is silent. Sometimes it collides with joy, like a wedding day, and a phone call you never expect. Because next, Bailey walks down the aisle while Adele's life slips away. It's supposed to be a rare moment of happiness at Gray Sloan. Miranda Bailey is getting married, the team is dressed up, the energy is warm, and for once, it feels like everything might be okay. But Grey's Anatomy doesn't do peace for long. Just as Bailey prepares to walk down the aisle, just before the ceremony, Richard's phone rings. Adele's collapsed at another hospital. It's serious. Her Alzheimer's had been getting worse for a while, but no one expected this. Bailey, still in her wedding dress, rushes into surgery to try to save her. The woman who trained her. The woman who helped shape so many of them. But it's too late. Adele dies on the table. Richard watches it happen, then heads back to Bailey's reception pretending he's fine. He smiles through heartbreak while everyone else dances. A day meant for celebration becomes one more scar on a long list of Gray Sloan tragedies. And next, Meredith lets the woman responsible for Derek's death into her home. And what happens at that dinner table cuts deeper than any scalpel. It starts like any other evening. Food, laughter, and familiar faces gathering around Meredith's table. But then the front door opens, and everything changes. Standing there is Penny Blake, the doctor who couldn't save Derek, the doctor who stood in that trauma room and let the love of Meredith's life slip away. At first, Meredith stays composed. She's civil, quiet, but every glance at Penny is a reminder of the worst night of her life. The room hums with small talk, but Meredith is somewhere else, trapped in grief she's forced to hide. Until she can't anymore. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she says it. Perfect Penny killed my husband. Suddenly, everything stops. The forks freeze mid-air. Amelia's expression crumbles. Penny's smile disappears. It's more than just awkward. It's excruciating. Because it's not just about Derek dying. It's about Meredith having to sit across from the woman who represents everything she lost. Grey's Anatomy isn't just drama, it's devastation wrapped in a scalpel and scrubs. These stories weren't just plot twists. They were gut punches that stayed with us long after the credits rolled. And if these moments shattered you, just wait, we're only getting started. There are more heartbreaks, more goodbyes, and more memories you've probably tried to forget. So, subscribe for more episodes that changed everything.